Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new series that I am calling Real versus Real. And in this series, we are going to be focusing on movies that say that they are based on true events, true stories, true things that happened. And we're going to watch them. Well, I'm going to watch them. You're going to watch me watch them, react about them. And I'm going to tell you guys what is fact, what actually happened, that the movie says happened, what is fiction, and what is something I call filmication. And today we are going to start off with the movie that truly sparked my interest in tragedies in general, and that is Devil's Pass. Now, Devil's Pass is about two friends. I mean, honestly, they're kind of in like a will they, won't they situationship. And they are trying to recreate a tragedy that actually did happen called Dyatlov's Pass, which is about 9 hikers who were fairly well experienced hikers, because that part is important. 9 hikers who hiked up into the Russian mountains in the middle of winter in February, and they were all found dead. The question is, how did they die? Because there are a lot of theories floating around on how they died. The reason why people are questioning how they died is because the bodies were found with varying degrees of injuries. There were some bodies that were found with small cuts and bruises, all the way up to crushed ribs that coincided with a car crash. There's also missing organs. There are missing tongues and missing eyeballs some of them were eventually found. The thing that also perplexes people is that their tent was found cut from the inside out. So, the question remains, what could have happened that would have made the hikers run out of their tent in the middle of the night? Some of them were found with very little clothing. So these are the things that the movie tries to explain, or at least gives its own theory as to what has happened to these hikers. And there are a lot of theories. And to this day, we still do not have a clear picture as to what happened. Because there are also the small elements of the story where the 9 hikers split off into 2 groups. Why did they do that? As I said before, there was some hikers with very little clothing, despite the fact that they are in the Russian mountains in February. And the most interesting one of all, I think anyway, is that there is a case of literal mistaken identity of one of the hikers that was eventually exhumed, did a DNA test on with people that were his relatives, his future, at the time future, niece and nephew, and there was no match. So who is this person that they found up there in the mountains? So essentially, the more that is released to the public, the more questions the public has. And this happened in 1959. So if this is your first time hearing about this case, go ahead and use me as kind of like an appetizer just to dip your toes in the water, because I am going over the utmost basic of details of this tragedy that happened. However, if you do want to indulge more, I highly recommend Lore Lodge's video, which is a 3-hour long video. He goes into great detail about each and every body's injuries. He goes into theories on how he thinks these injuries occurred. He also goes more into detail about the mistaken identity. He also goes into detail, well, I guess not detail, he also explains how the movie Frozen, how the Russians used the movie Frozen to kind of perpetuate the avalanche theory, which is the most common theory. There was an avalanche, they cut their tent out, they ran, and they just couldn't find their way back to the tent. He goes into that theory, and then he also goes into why that wouldn't make sense in real world circumstances. Again, these were experienced hikers. He goes into all of that. So as you guys can see, there is a lot to this tragedy that happened. But I will definitely link Lore Lodge's video in the description below. In addition to the website, there is an official Dyatlov website that goes through everything. And Lore Lodge even admits that they use nearly all of their information from this website because this website is still current today. They actually just posted something up a few days ago about them in this mountainous area. They're still extremely active today. They still have literally the most up-to-date discoveries. If there are any to still be found, they are still up to date. They are still updating their website on new discoveries, on new things that happened. If you are a morbid freak like me, I am a morbid freak, they even have the real life photos of the hikers when they were found, including some other photos of them not being in the snow when they were found. I will leave it at that. Some of them were in some interesting positions, and just wondering why they were in some positions. So anyway, we are going to start on this movie. Now, in a normal setting, I would go ahead and let the movie play and interject when things are the fact, fiction, or filmication-ness, I guess. However, this movie is done differently in a way that I don't think doing it that way would work, because it is a documentary style type of movie, and Holly and Jensen are not claiming to be the hikers that disappeared. So I can't be like, nope, that wasn't right. These hikers didn't do that, because they're just recreating. So they're just following the same path that the hikers took to get up to the mountain and just document whatever they find, kind of a thing. However, this film has a lot of filmication and a lot of fiction. Now, before we truly begin with our movie, I know that this is a super long intro. My apologies. There's just, again, a lot to this story. Before we actually get into this movie, I want to put up this screenshot, and this is the actual list of theories from the Dyatlov website. I would love it if you guys comment below. If you haven't seen the movie, if you have, disregard. Don't spoil it. I would love for you guys to comment below what you think this movie's theory as to what happened to the hikers is. And there are technically two theories. Extra points if you get the lesser one. But if you haven't seen this movie, please take a wild guess and comment below what you think the cause for the hikers, what the cause for the hikers' death was. So yeah, so let's go ahead and get into this movie. Finally, I know. So we immediately start off with a filmication. And the words on the screen are technically true, and I don't think it was 2 weeks later. It was, well, I mean, I know it definitely wasn't 2 weeks later the hikers were found, but we will get into that later. So that part is false. However, the explanation of they were 9 hikers, they were experienced, they went into the mountains, and they were found dead, and it remains a mystery, that is all true. However, the photos that they use are extremely fake. These are not the actual photos. Again, all you morbid freaks, the Dyatlov website is linked below in the description. Go take a look. But yeah, the photos that they use, and I'm not blaming them for not using the actual photos. However, these photos are heavily criticized by the Dyatlov community, because they didn't even try to replicate how the hikers were found in the snow. If they used stunt doubles or dummies or whatever, and they tried to replicate how the hikers were found, I think that the community would be a lot more forgiving. But they did try to make it a horror movie, which, you can't blame them. They are trying to make a horror movie, make it more interesting. Oh my goodness. So, I don't know. I will give them some leeway. Not everybody does want to see the actual life photos that were taken. So I'll give them a pass. I just want you guys to know that these photos are not the real photos. So we meet Holly and her not boyfriend, Jensen, who honestly seems like he would be the type of person you wouldn't want to talk to at a party.
And mystery. What are some of the explanations? They get disoriented, think that they're overheating, and then start taking off their clothes.
Come on, Holly. These were 9. That is even stupider than paradoxical undressing.
The victims did what they did. That.
He gives off, I'm too smart and I'm too aware of things way more than everybody else. And it does get a little annoying after a while. But all in all, I do like Jensen. I just wouldn't want to go to a party with him or kind of be his friend. I don't know, maybe I don't like Jensen.
I first heard about the incident when a Russian journalist named Yuri Yarovoi published a fictionalized account of it in a book.
course, they had him killed.
So now, I could not find any information on this Yuri fellow who wrote the book. There are a lot of Yuris in the story. There are at least 3 and now maybe 4. So this Yuri Y. This Yuri I could not find any solid information on other than a random article, which was only a paragraph long about him, and it was just describing how he did write a book. He was the photographer for the search party that found the hikers. He's the one that, I guess he's the one that took the photographs. I mean, I'm sure there were more than just him. And when he wrote his book, the Soviet Union did make him change the ending. Because, newsflash, the Soviet Union kept secrets from people. Like, that part from this, according to this article, which I have no bearing on facts or not, I guess I guess that is true. And when he died in the 1980s, his photos and his diaries and his manuscripts were lost. But the thing about the government causing his death is false, I guess? I don't know. Again, I don't know what to call this one. So your guess is as good as mine. I couldn't find any information on the Dyatlov website. I only found any information in this random website, which again, I will link below for you guys if you want to read it. I literally, it's the only place that had his name anywhere.
Our ultimate destination is the Kholat Syakhl, literally translated, the Mountain of the Dead. Seriously.
So the Mountain of the Dead. I am going to call this one a fact and a filmication. Simply because the name of the Mountain of the Dead, is true. However, the website gives 2 different reasons for this possibility. And it's a filmication, of course, because people think that the name came because of the hikers that passed. The hikers in question.
A name the Mansi tribe gave it due to many accounts of mysterious deaths and disappearances throughout history.
This is not true. According to the official website, the name has to do with the Mansi tribe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, I hope I am. And one of the legends say that the Mountain of the Dead came from the Sacral 9, I believe is how you pronounce it. And this is where they would sacrifice 9 living creatures to their god, to the god of death. And they used to sacrifice things like deer, ducks were mentioned. Not sure where a duck is going to be on a mountain. But basically just like game that they would hunt. And they would sacrifice 9 of these living creatures to the god of death of the mountain. Until one day, out of nowhere, literally it says there was no reason for this change, I guess. The Mansi tribe decided to sacrifice 9 of their own hunters to the goddess of death on this tribe. The goddess was pleased by this, and so more human sacrifices started happening. And this began the Mountain of the Dead because of human sacrifices and all these. And some people believe that the 9 hikers were a part of this ritual. It would make sense because there were 9 of them. However, the second reason, which is the one I personally believe because it makes a lot more sense than adding spooky gods and legends to the mix. The second reason for the Mountain of the Dead name is because during the winter, up that high in the mountain, there is no vegetation. And there's not a lot of game that go up that high. Giving the name, the land is dead. There's nothing there. It's a dead mountain. Which makes a lot more sense to me. That name was also given by the Mansi tribe. Well, that explanation was also given by the Mansi tribe. However, sacrifices did happen centuries and centuries ago, so who's to say how it actually got its name? So then we meet the rest of our cast. We have Denise.
You say your name right now.
Denise.
Say it right.
Denise.
Correctly.
Denise.
Right.
Denise.
Right.
Denise.
That's better.
Andy and JP. And these people are just going to help them, Holly and JP, with their hike up to said place. We get a small montage of them training in the mountains and Holly laughing.
I hate these freaking snowshoes.
But you look so cool in them, Jensen.
The The way Holly talks and some of the dialogue is very not realistic. And I don't know. I might point them out later. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, it's just really weird. And then Holly says, "We're on our way," that kind of a thing. And then we cut to news footage of these hikers, missing for at least a month. I guess someone found their footage and some hackers released it to the public. And in this released footage, we see Holly and Jensen, and we hear Holly talking about a door.
I opened the door and the darkness swallowed me.
Cut back to a month earlier, and this is where they are officially beginning their hike.
So we can interview a man named Peter Karov. He was actually the 10th member of the Dyatlov group, but got sick on the first day out and had to turn back. Not long after, he had some kind of breakdown and has been in a psychiatric hospital here ever since.
This is blatantly false. So yes, there were supposed to be 10 hikers on the original trip. Yuri was the name of the hiker that did fall ill and did not go. Not whatever the hell this name was supposed to be. I don't even remember it.
Peter Karov.
He got a sciatic nerve pain that he had been dealing with as a child. It started to flare up, and so he decided to stay behind rather than probably slow the group down. He did not, however, spend the rest of his days in a mental health hospital with guys who wear t-shirts in the winter. However, he did have severe survivor's guilt until the day he died. Every February 2nd, it was said that he would go to their graves and pray to his friends who died, saying, "I should have been there." In which he feels like maybe if he was there, he could have done something to have prevented them from dying. He felt as though he could have done something to have given them a better chance to survive if he was there. So back to the movie, the group makes their way to a bar to ask for a ride to Visay? Visay? I don't know how to pronounce it. This guy pronounces it.
Visay?
Which is the real city that the hikers were staying at before they went up the mountain. So when they make it to
Visay?
they meet up with an aunt of the guy who gave them a ride, and she claims that she was part of the rescue group that was searching for the hikers. And she claims that she found 2 bodies, making the total to be 11.
That's when I found 2 others. There was something wrong with them. More wrong than the others. And something in the snow near them. A machine.
Obviously, Holly is like, wait, no, there's only 9. And I swear at one point, I did see an article somewhere that did claim that they found 11 bodies, but then used the reasoning for they just counted 2 of the hikers twice. Which, in this scenario, I don't know how you would make that mistake, but whatever. And for the life of me, I cannot find that article anywhere. I saw it one time while I was doing some research, and I have not been able to find that article since. So for all intents and purposes, this is very fake. However, keep in mind this aunt for future. So when we begin our hike, we see the group, very casual banter, very realistic banter.
How about it, Andy? What do you think of Jensen's alien theory?
Stupid.
He's the strong silent type, huh?
You think you have enough footage of me? Get some of the mountains.
But you're so much more interesting, JP.
We see them just filming some mountainsides. We see Holly filming the group just trekking and, some scenery scenes. Until we get to the nighttime where Holly sees Jensen looking up at the sky.
Okay, what are you doing?
He mentions that in the week leading up to the deaths, people were reporting seeing orange lights in the sky. And that apparently there were 6 different people that made this claim.
In the week leading up to the incident, there were reports of orange lights in the sky. 6 totally separate witnesses.
Now, nowhere could I find people making this claim about lights in the sky. However, I think what the movie is trying to insinuate here are these photos that were taken from one of the hikers' cameras. There is the theory that people think that these photos in particular do show evidence of UFOs. So I think that's where the movie is trying to get the lights in the sky theory out there. So they wake up the next morning and find some big old feet prints in the snow.
So we woke up this morning and we found something weird. Footprints lurking between these 2 rocks and around the tents. The shape is weird. See how big that one is? And then the other one is even bigger.
And then later, they find a tongue in a weather tower, which is very obviously fake. Because no one found Ludia's tongue. Ludia's? Ludi. I think it's Ludia. I don't know. I will do my best with the pronunciation of the names. Anyway, no one ever found her tongue.
Well?
Hang on. What the?
And this whole time, they have been blaming Holly for the strange things that have been happening, like the big feet print.
We just don't like being messed with is all.
You think that we're messing with you?
No, we think Bigfoot was checking out our campsite last night.
How could we possibly fake that?
Oh, you're right, Holly. No one's ever faked footprints in the snow before.
Freaking amateur, man.
For these big monstrosities that they have been finding, and for the tongue. For the feet prints, I can understand. Like, yeah, maybe she did fake those. However, when it comes to the tongue being found in a weather tower in the middle of the Russian mountains, that would mean she would have had to run to the weather tower, assuming that she knew where a weather tower was in the middle of Russia because it was not being used anymore. They mentioned it was not being used anymore. She would have had to run to this weather tower, place the tongue, and run back without any of them knowing. Not to mention the fact that she would have had to hold on to a tongue for at least a week. And after more very casual banter, they finally make it to the site.
You've been hanging out with me for too long, man. You're supposed to be our Velma.
What's that?
Scooby-Doo. Says
I've never
jinkies.
seen it.
Okay, whatever.
So we are going to speed round this section because, first off, copyright, and secondly, for time's sake. Now, before we begin this speed round of sorts, I just want to let you guys know I am not Russian. Surprise! I'm not Russian. I do not know how to pronounce these names, at least not some of them. So, without completely butchering Russian names and these very real people's names, I'm going to have this bar, this bar, wherever I'm putting it on the screen, and I'm going to try my best to figure out how to highlight the people that I am talking about. Now I know how to pronounce Yuri. However, there are two Yuris in this story. Yuri K and Yuri D is what I'm going to call them. Well, I want to be as respectful as I can. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. Rustum? Is it Rustum? I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to edit this so far. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but we'll figure it out. Just know that if I do screw up the name, my greatest apologies. I'm an American.
Rustem Slobodkin, 23, the first of them to fall.
We have no way of knowing who actually died first.
Sineda Kolmogorova, 22, the only victim showing any sign of a struggle. She was missing her tongue and a large portion of her oral cavity.
Zina did not show any signs of a struggle. She was also missing her tongue.
Ludmila Dublanina, 21.
Ludia was not 21. She was actually 21 days before they put her to rest. A while after they found her body and just a few days before she was put to rest.
But Rustem and Nicholas also had severely crushed skulls.
There were crushed bones. However, I could not find anything stating if it was crushed ribs or crushed skulls, because Ludia and Simeon had broken ribs, and Rustum and Nicholas had fractured skulls. But I will give this one a fact because it's the only thing they get right, and I feel bad.
And Ludmila and Alexander Zolotarev had a number of broken ribs. But none of the bodies had any defensive injuries. No external injuries whatsoever.
As I said before, some people were found with bruising and small cuts that we think may have been obtained while falling out of the cedar tree. They think that they fell out of the cedar tree because they were getting wood for a fire, which a fire was found, and it was found, like, obviously not lit. A campsite was found. There were also burns on some of the people that were presumed to be from the fire.
Also, Alexander's body tested positive for high levels of radiation.
I believe it was Ludia and Yuri K who were found with radiation, but it was on the clothes and not on their actual bodies, but it was high levels. So now let's go into detail about how the hikers were actually found. So they believe that the group died within the days of February 2nd. We obviously can't know if they all died on the same day, because their bodies were found doing various things, which I will try to get to in a minute. So the group was supposed to send a telegram to their loved ones on February 12th, basically confirming that they made it safely and they're probably going to be on their way back or whatever. They were supposed to send a telegram on the 12th. We obviously know that telegram never came. However, the search did not begin until February 20th. So the search team found the group's tent on February 25th, along with a set of footprints. However, they did not actually begin to find the bodies until February 27th. And they found 2 of the bodies near the cedar tree. Now, the lore lodge mentions that it was actually probably a fir tree, but we're just going off of semantics at this point. They were found at a tree. And the first 2 people who were found were the Yuris. And I call them the Yuris because it was Yuri D and Yuri K who were found first. They also found Igor Dyatlov, who was the group's leader, which is why the whole incident is named Dyatlov. They also found Dyatlov and Zina. They found both of them a little bit distance away from the Yuris. Both of them looks like they just collapsed in the snow, while Dyatlov looks like he was trying to take off his jacket as he was frozen in place with his hands near his chest. Almost a week later, on March 5th, is where they found Rustam, who also looks like he collapsed while walking. Like the others, he was covered in snow, however, he was slightly deeper in the snow, which is why, although he was closer to the Yuris than Igor and Zina, he was found after them because the snow had buried him more, I guess. Now, after Rustam was found, it took them 2 months to find the others. And that was only because the snow started to melt. And this is where they stumbled upon the den. The den showed the search party that the group, at least the second half of the group, that's why I said they were found in 2 different groups, it found that at least some of the group was trying to protect themselves. It showed that they were not, that they were fully aware of what they were doing. They were trying to find a way to protect themselves from the elements. Now, the way that the rest of the members were found was very odd, in my opinion, and in some other people's opinions too. And while I can't show you, I can describe to you how they were found. So, I believe all of them were found on the same day. And so this was 2 months after their deaths. Again, we cannot confirm that all of them died on February 2nd. We can confirm that it was probably around the same time. So, with around 2 months of decomposition, of being in the frozen snow, of it melting, and just the elements, it's very hard to to come with a definite cause of death when the with the autopsies, right? However, the way the bodies were found of the last 4 people, again, Lore Lodge goes into much greater detail on this. People suspect if they were thrown, if there was some kind of human intervention and where the bodies were dumped and then just left, because the last 3 men were found back to chest. So if I'm laying here, someone is directly on my back and someone is directly on his back. That's what that means. Which very well could have been them trying to keep warm, but it was very odd to find them like that. And my biggest question mark was Ludia. Ludia was found almost kneeled and leaning against a ledge. Again, I cannot show the pictures here. I'm sorry, I can't. And she was one of the people that was found with crushed ribs. As I mentioned before, the medical report says that it looks like they were in a car crash. Now, I don't know about you, but I, for one, would not be hiking up a mountain if I was in a car crash with crushed ribs. That's not something I don't think I would do. And 2, that I know for certain, there are not cars on top of a mountain in the 1950s. Those things just don't happen. So the only thing that the medical examiner could officially say is the damage was probably caused by an impact of great force. where did that great force come from? We don't know. So with all of that out of the way, everything from this point on in this movie, Devil's Past movie, is pure fiction. So I am well already into an Ava review, and we're out of wine. So I hope you have your wine out because it is now time for a wild ride. So let's get back to our actual movie review. I don't know if I mentioned this before. Andy and JP, they are the expert hikers. Holly and Jensen hired them, or whatever you want to call it, hired them because they have hiked all over the world, essentially. And they're like, hey, we need some hikers to help us, know how to hike. And so that's why they're here. And so they have like super high-tech equipment. And so after Holly does her little speech, both of them mention that their equipment is not working.
What's up, Andy?
The GPS is all screwed up. Should have alerted us when we got to site.
My altimeter's toast. And look at this. It got me through the Himalayas, and it's always worked perfectly everywhere but here.
So anyway, we are at that night. And Holly and Jensen find the reason for Yuri K's radiation. So in the middle of the night, they go out with their little meter thing that measures radiation, and they find a metal door.
It's nothing dangerous, but it's way more than we should be seeing. You gotta put the camera down and come help me. There's a door!
Gotta get this on film.
That locks from the outside.
It locks from the outside.
I think I would stay away from it, but okay. It is frozen shut, so they cannot open it. Oh no. So they decide to not tell the others because, according to Holly's excuse, they're already freaked out. I don't want to freak them out more. Assuming that she could have faked a door in the middle of a fucking mountain. They eventually go to bed and are awakened by what sounds like explosions and then an avalanche.
Everybody okay?
Who's that?
What the hell is that?
Which causes Denise to go snow surfing, but the deadly kind. Andy gets swept away, but he is saved. However, his leg has seen better days because legs aren't supposed to snap in half.
You gotta reset it. You gotta reset it now.
Okay.
Just do it anyway.
All right, on three. Ready? One.
He is literally immobile. So after a bunch of screaming and realizing, hey, we're in danger here, Holly and Jensen are trying to convince now just JP and Andy that it's basically the Russian government that is behind all of this. Because they knew that they were going to be there. They had to submit travel papers of where they were going to be traveling to, so the Russian government knew that they were there and is trying to off them because they're getting too close. But too close to what?
They goddamn killed her!
It was an avalanche! Oh, wake up, man! They tried to kill us, they tried to bury us, so it looked like an accident!
You crazy bastard! Shit like that doesn't happen in the real world!
Are you telling me you didn't see those charges?
We had to apply for permits and submit travel plans. JP, they knew exactly where we were and when we'd be there. They waited until we were asleep. Jensen is right. Somebody is trying to kill us.
Once it starts to get a little bit brighter and they think, hey, people should be starting to wake up now, they send a flare which gives off their location and the fact that they are not dead.
Come on.
Jensen mentions that it was an orange light. He's like, huh, an orange light. Orange lights in the sky.
Huh.
What?
Orange lights in the sky.
Which honestly does tie in later, so just keep that in the back of your heads. If you guys haven't figured it out, keep it in the back of your heads. Later on, they see two men in the distance and they're like, oh, thank God, help is here. However, Andy is the first one to recognize they have no packs on.
What?
They don't have any packs. How'd they get here so fast?
So, how did they get there? And so quickly? They quickly assume they are not actually here to help, and that is confirmed when Andy's head stops a bullet.
Oh, jeez.
No! Oh my God!
They take some of their boiling water and get the frozen door unshut. By the way, they mentioned that there was a door. It was just like a pass thing, but now they know that there's a door, and they open it with some of their boiling water. The three slip inside, that is Jensen, Holly, and JP, slip inside, and then the two Russian men lock it behind them. But not before JP gets shot in the shoulder. Hi! It's a different day, if you can't tell. I was expecting my video to go out today. I was expecting to get it finished editing today. Today being the September 16th for all of you nosy Nancys out there. And while I was editing, my audio, literally out of nowhere, turned into this. And it did that for the whole rest of the review. I have no idea what happened. It seems fine now, but there will probably be a lot of jump cuts just so I can pause and check. Please forgive me. So I didn't do my hair. I did do my makeup for you guys, but I am out of wine, but I think I will survive somehow. All right, we're going to go straight back into the review. I just wanted to put that little disclaimer in here because obviously I look different. So after some wandering around in the dark, they let JP kind of just sit and chill out for a little bit, I guess. And Holly and Jensen are just going through these documents, and Jensen finds some documentation that talks about the Philadelphia experiment.
Commissioned experiments on that ship.
What kind of experiments?
Teleportation.
So I guess the Philadelphia experiment was a technically real thing about a ship that they tried to make go invisible, they make teleport, something like that. You can read about it, but the military obviously denies anything about it being used for teleportation. But can we really expect the military to admit that if they did teleport things? Probably not. They begin to wander around a little bit more, and they find this area where a guy is laying on the table and his tongue is missing.
What are you doing?
Checking something.
Oh, shit.
That thing we found in the weather tower?
That was his tongue?
Which we are led to believe is the same tongue from what Holly found in the weather tower. And to this day, as many times as I have seen this movie, to this day, I am confused as to why he's there. They talk about how he must have been the one to either lock or unlock the door, but I don't know why he's here. I have no idea. These are the questions that will never be answered. So they walk into another room where there are these hooks, and they kind of get close to them. They're like, "Oh, what are these hooks? They are so large, and the hooks are so large." And when they turn around, they see a light, which turns out to be a camera. And when they pick it up, it is the same exact camera that they are currently using to record.
No recording! I just want to get you saying that on camera.
And so they fast forward to what the time that they are now, but the camera dies. So obviously they don't know what's going to happen to them.
Stop. Check what's on there. No recording! I just want to get you saying that on camera.
Shit! Which honestly I thought was a pretty cool idea, and I wish that some future time traveling movies would probably implement this. I thought it was a pretty cool idea. I guess if you haven't figured it out, they're kind of time traveling. We'll get there. So right when the battery dies, they hear JP scream. You guys remember JP? He's the one that's still bleeding to death over there in the back. JP screams, and when they run over, the monsters of the whole movie are finally revealed, and they're all CGI gloriness.
What are you doing? Get over here!
They are teleporting all over the room, and they turn into dust when anything physical threatens them. Holly tries to whip them with the chain, and they go, and they're in dust, and they just turn into dust, and they reappear, and they scream and they're very scary. Unfortunately, JP dies without a tongue, and so I don't know what it is with these creatures and tongues, because that makes 3 tongues now. You demon things. Y'all are gross. And so Jensen and Holly are trying to run away from them, and there's a lot of running and chasing that kind of makes me nauseous all the time because I cannot do these like first-person movies for too long. And they go into a cave. And in this cave is a big swirly light thing, and when Holly throws a rock, it disappears. And because Jensen is now apparently all-knowing, he figures out that it is a wormhole.
Makes sense. It's kind of like a giant wormhole. Like a transporter.
And so this is where we cut to that news footage that showed Holly and Jensen, and Holly was crying about a door.
It happened.
What?
I opened the door and the darkness swallowed me, just like in my dream.
Hey, come on. Hey.
Something I did forget to mention back when it happened, this is back when they found the tongue in the weather tower. Jensen and Holly did have a small heart-to-heart where Jensen was talking about how he was on an acid trip years ago, and during this trip, he remembers being chased by demons. And, well, he remembers being chased, and when the police found him, he was screaming about demons. Holly tells him about a dream that she has had since she was a little girl, about a door, and in the door there was darkness, and the darkness swallows her up, and she wakes up screaming.
And they were chasing me, and I was just running. And the next thing I remember, the cops were picking me up, and I was in the middle of the street screaming about demons.
Okay, sweetie. When I was a kid, I used to have this dream about this place. It was exactly the same. The mountains, the snow, everything. And it was like there was this magnet pulling me toward it. And, I get out here, and then there's this door. A door. And I don't want to open it, but I have to. And then, like, on the other side, there's just this darkness, like blackness, and it swallows me up.
And if we go back to when she was first going to enter this bunker, we do see her staring into the darkness until they pull her through. So we do see her hesitating.
Holly! Shut the door! Shut the damn door!
After an unknown amount of time, her and Jensen finally decide, look, we can't stay here. Like, we're either going to open this door and these things are going to attack us, or we can go to the unknown. Into the unknown. And see where this wormhole thing leads. So with his camera in hand, Jensen and Holly both walk through this wormhole. There's a big flashing light, and we see their bodies laying in the snow, and we realize that we are back to 1959.
Валик! Ну мы же уже нашли всех туристов. Кто это?
Назад! Кому сказали назад?
Подождите, мы просто хотели помочь, не надо.
And we see the aunt back when she was in her youth. We see the aunt running up and finding their bodies, which are the two bodies that she mentioned finding, and her machine that she said that she found is the camera. So the military guards come out. They shoo these non-important people away, and two of the other Russian guards pick up the bodies of Holly and Jensen, carry them through the bunker that is obviously not destroyed yet because they're the ones who destroy it, and they set them up on the hooks. They set the camera down, and the camera magically zooms in to Holly's tattoo that she has behind her ear, so we know for sure that this is both Holly and Jensen.
A town called Ifdal.
Nice tattoo, Angel. Got matching wings or just the one?
Just the one, and it hurt like hell.
Now as monsters. And so if you haven't figured it out yet, Holly and Jensen are in a never-ending time loop. And I'm assuming that because they were mostly secluded into the bunker in the past, it didn't really have any kind of relevance or kind of butterfly effect that would have prevented them from being born in the future. And so this is why when they were talking about their bad dreams and their acid trips and being drawn to the mountains, I'm assuming that this is just the cycle repeating itself for the end of time, I suppose. So if you had military, teleportation, or time loop in on your comments from before when I asked you to write down your theories in the comments below, congratulations, you get a thumbs up from me. But if you didn't, I do not blame you, because in a little bit of a cheating way, the teleportation theory that was down at the very bottom of that screenshot is only there because of this movie. And you might be wondering, what does this have to do with the Dyatlov group? Who knows? Because as soon as Holly does her little speech about everybody, about her wrongness of everybody, they do not mention the Dyatlov group at all after that. And that kind of pisses people off because they used this tragedy as a luring point for their movie, and it's kind of capitalizing on a tragedy, which is not unheard of. I'm not saying like, well, they're not the first ones to do. I know. But it doesn't make it any more or less right. So I will say I did choose this movie because, as I said before, this movie got me obsessed with tragedies in general. And to be fair, I never would have known about this incident, about this tragedy, if it wasn't for this movie. So, in a small way, it is getting the word out there about this group and about the website, which you can donate to if you so choose. So that's going to do it for me. I really hope you guys enjoyed this review. It took me a very long time to fact check all the things that they were saying, to do all of the things. Please like and sub if you enjoy this kind of content. Please comment below what other movies based on true events I should do next. I do have a few in mind, but I'm always willing to listen to you guys for content suggestions. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!